Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO. Today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and we're here with some more Taki Udon clone updates because we've got a lot of information since I did the last video, and I think a lot of you guys are going to be very interested in seeing what's going on, because apparently there's not one but two portable MiSTers, and we have some 3D printed videos to show you guys kind of going over what the handheld might be looking like. But there's a ton of different clones coming to the market or already here, and it is a fun time to be a MiSTer FPGA fan, especially if you're getting into your first build, because the ecosystem is definitely getting a lot less expensive. And we've kind of followed this all the way through its inception when we saw prototype boards, and I'll continue to cover it until the products are in front of my camera for review. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. So when Taki Udon was first teasing the flagship MiSTer, we thought maybe it could be a scaler because it had HDMI in and HDMI out, as well as VGA in and VGA out, things that you would expect to see on a scaler. So someone was presuming, myself included, that maybe this was going to be able to function secondarily, not being a MiSTer, but as a video scaler. That's what everyone was kind of thinking, but apparently that was not correct whatsoever, because Taki has said he's found a 4x3 AMOLED screen for the flagship. That means there's going to be a 4x3 aspect ratio screen on the console, and that's kind of where the portability factor comes in. It's going to be really interesting to go through that. And you'll see here he also states that he's printing some flagship console shells this weekend for prototyping, but he had a secret view. He never said that the FPGA handheld was the only portable in the lineup of 4 consoles he's making. The flagship is portable as well. Now what does that mean? We're not quite sure yet, but we have some presumptions, and I'll definitely go over those. But let's kind of pop into the handheld territory for just a bit to show you guys what Taki's been showing off as well. Recently he showed that he had a plan A and a plan B for the form factor of the MiSTer FPGA handheld, and I and pretty much everyone else seems to be most excited for this handheld variant, because as much fun as MiSTer FPGA is, it's not something you can take on a train or a plane with you and play. You do need a full setup and a television for it to work. So having a MiSTer FPGA handheld, definitely an aspirational goal out there. And he showed some 3D prints kind of mocking up what the design is going to be, so let's go over those now. The first was just a test for a D-pad. Not the most exciting thing to see on camera, but you know full well handhelds and controllers live or die by the quality of their D-pad. If it's mushy, if it's unresponsive, if it doesn't feel good under your thumb, you're not going to have a good experience. I'm glad to see that they're going through prototyping phases on that D-pad. Honestly, I'd rather them spend more time on a D-pad than on a screen, because if the screen's 98% perfect, nobody will care, but if a D-pad is not correct, everyone is going to care. Now secondarily, they showed off the Plan A form factor, at least up to about the halfway mark in my opinion, and you'll see here it's got a nice sweeping curve to it, definitely something that's going to be feeling nice in your hand, and that is the fun thing about the prototyping process, and it's something that I am familiar with back in my days at Burton Snowboard. We had an entire mock-up division for goggles and other objects. We'd even go to clay design, and we had a woodworker on staff who would mold certain things out of wood basically by carving them in, so we could get a full 3D feel of what something felt like in the hand. So this is looking very good right now. We'll have to wait and see what the top half brings. And this looks very similar to something that Taki Udon teased maybe a couple months ago, where we talked about the budget and mainstream console, as well as a basic pencil drawing, or probably a CAD drawing honestly, of the handheld design. You'll see here it does seem to have a lot of that sweeping angularity we just saw in that 3D print, and it definitely feels like it's going to be something that resembles maybe a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 controller. At least that's what I'm seeing in that 3D print and in those mock-ups. You leave me a comment down below and tell me if you agree, but it really does feel like that. And of course we're still waiting to see whether or not there's going to be any sort of 6-button variant for this, because stuff like Mega Drive, Capcom CPS 1 and 2 can and do use all 6 buttons for certain games, and for the most part handheld designers will put those out onto the shoulder buttons, but we do have examples of 6-button handhelds that work really well, so it'll be fun to see maybe if that is a possibility in the future. And honestly, if they're prototyping stuff, I hope they're considering the Saturn D-pad design. It is still one of the best on the market. The Saturn controller, best D-pad ever made. And somebody did ask, just so you know, because I'm sure there'll be a comment down below, whether or not the final cases are going to be injection molded. Taki specifically states that he's not going to be selling any 3D printed cases, so that means that you're going to get an injection molded product, which is the way it should be. It definitely costs more than 3D printing, although injection molding design, tool, and die has definitely come down in price since I used to deal with it of Burton for our goggles. This is an expensive process, but it renders the best possible result, and it is a fun thing to see. So you should expect that. You should expect to see more of it soon. Now on to the flagship design. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a scaler. Those HDMI ins, the video ins, the audio ins made me think that it was going to be something like a 4K or even a 1440p scaler. Just because Mr. FPGA runs a game doesn't mean you can't put a core on it that would have been a scaler. That was definitely what I was thinking, and a lot of people seem to think the same thing. And again, that's because you had HDMI in, you had volume controls, but then we saw brightness and min-max. That kind of threw us for a little bit of a loop. We weren't 100% sure what might be going on, but that is the fun thing in these kind of product developments. We can parse through the details, make some assumptions, some are right, some are wrong, but it definitely isn't going to be a scaler, so that means it's going to have a screen built into the case. Is it a handheld? That is honestly something that we can't exactly guess yet, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be. Someone even asked what the resolution was going to be, if it's going to be specifically 2048 by 1536, and Taki replies with a smile, so we can kind of assume that maybe he's saying yes. And somebody even else asked whether or not it's going to be modeled after a PVM. That would be hilarious to see. You never know what you're actually going to get here, but obviously there's probably a very easy guess as to what's going to be coming out. But if you're wondering if he's selling these as a kit where you can put your own Mr. FPGA in, that is not going to be happening. It seems like the PCB must be custom, so these flagship designs are going to come with the Mr. FPGA board inside of them, whatever form factor that ends up taking. But this is what I assume, and what pretty much everyone assumes. We're going to be seeing something like a PlayStation 1 with the LCD screen attached. Imagine a case with Mr. FPGA controller ports that has a nice 4x3 AMOLED display in it that you can take over to your friend's house, pop on a desk, or otherwise play. Definitely a zag and pivot, not what many people would have guessed. And if you've never seen it before, there was also the Dreamcast, yes, with a T, not a D. This is an aftermarket Dreamcast using Sega parts that put a screen on the top of the shell so you and your friends could play Dreamcast wherever you were. Does that mean the flagship might have some battery power inside? You can take it to the beach or to the park and play your Mister? Honestly, we'll just have to wait and see. And as far as the budget and mainstream consoles are concerned, really haven't heard much lately on those fronts. But don't forget, we have the handheld, we have the budget, we have the flagship, we have the mainstream, as well as the triple stack standard Mr. FPGA setup that pretty much 9 out of 10 Misters are built with. Taki Udon has a lot of irons in the fire here, and it's going to be fun to see how all of these develop and come out. First thing we're going to be doing once it releases for sale is testing the triple stack, giving you guys a good look at just how well that is doing at being a Mr. FPGA, and then as these trickle out, I'll definitely pick them up and review them on camera. I'll probably just pick them all up to show you guys off, because I know everyone's going to want to see each and every one of them. And if you're wondering about the other clones on the market, I do have a review video of the QM Tech boards up. I did that on Thursday, and you're probably watching this on Friday. I do sometimes make the videos out of order though, so if you haven't seen this yet, you'll probably see it in the next 24 hours. But there's so many different clones currently coming to the market, or on the market. It is an exciting time to be a Mr. FPGA fan. It'll be interesting to see what Taki Udon's custom PCBs look like compared to something like the QM Tech design, because there's more than one way to skin a Mister, and we're going to be going over each and every one of them. But obviously still for me, the most exciting thing is the handheld. I love Mr. FPGA. I've got 5 builds at this point in time. Obviously I make these videos, but the one thing I can't easily do is just throw my Mister in a bag, take a flight, take it out, and play whatever FPGA core I would like to. And that is something I'm definitely looking forward to in the future. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me of the budget, the mainstream, the flagship, the triple stack, and the handheld, which one you're most excited about. I feel like 9 out of 10 people are going to go ahead and say that handheld. But when these are available for sale, review, and otherwise, I will continue to update these videos, because the back half of 2024 is going to be very interesting for Mr. FPGA. Short of that, we're done. We'll be back with some more clone news as it happens, but I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.